everybody, Bridget Lynn Dolgoff and Consciousness of Economics. And I've been wanting for a long time to do like a video about, get that going, a video about kind of vampirism. And, you know, nowadays there's a lot of stuff out on the market about just different kinds of vampirism and where it might be coming from. And there's a lot of stuff about people eating people and kids and all this other stuff. And on this channel, or on my channel, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project, I have a video called A Real Vampire Story that actually happened. And, you know, I've checked out all kinds of different, like, modern day vampires. I just, you know, kind of been into it, but just tell you a story. I did not grow up with, even in the churches that we attended in Pentecost, we did not do communion. And in the summer times when I was in California, I would go to church a lot with my grandmother, who was a prophet and an exorcist. And never did communion. Never saw communion and never did communion. And so I think I was around 19 and I was dating a guy and his family lived in Las Vegas and we drove down for Christmas. And he was going to attend Christmas Mass with his dad. They were Catholic. And the mother actually talked me into going, and I wasn't going to go. Because, you know, I'm not Catholic and I don't really want to be Catholic. And, you know, just, you know, I'm just not organized religion. I had enough of that, you know, kind of thing when I was a kid. So we ended up going to this Christmas Mass, and it was like up, down, up, down, up, down. You're on your knees, you're sitting down, you're standing up, you're on your knees, you're sitting down, you're standing up. It was like, just like, come on, just like get over already. And this particular Christmas Mass was like all in Latin. It wasn't a total language that no one in the whole place understood. And it's kind of like witches, you know, putting curses on people. When you're speaking in a language that people don't understand and they just accept. So I didn't really like the creepiness of that. I was always kind of like awake. So, anyway, there was a part of the ending of the part of the Mass where you're going to drink Jesus's blood, and sometimes it's like wine, and sometimes it's like grape juice, and then also you're going to eat the body of Christ, right? So I was just like, I don't know. Let me just see what this is going to be like. So they get me to go in line, and there's this like long lines, and there's these, you know, hierarchy of individual underneath the main bishop guy, who, like, one guy is like, you know, got the incense burner jamming, and the other one is putting this round thing on in people's mouths as you walk up in line. And I didn't really want that in my mouth. And the other thing too is I didn't want that guy's fingers in my mouth. I had total issues about the whole thing. Number one, he wasn't wearing gloves. Where's his hand been? And he's taking these things out, crackers supposedly, and sticking in people's mouths. So I just put my hand out, and he put it in my hand. And so I was walking away with it, and I was feeling it, and it was almost like plastic. It was like, you know, it's like a communion wafer or whatever the hell, but it was disgusting. So I decided I wasn't going to eat it. Well, I didn't know that that's like a major thing. So by the time I got back to my seat, I turned around. I had like 40 people screaming at me. I had the guy that I was dating, his dad, the guy that gave me the cracker, and all these people going, eat it. It was like totally peer pressure. And I was like, it was bad. So when they were going to do the wine part, I was like, yeah, I'm not interested. I'm not getting in line for it. Forget it. And I didn't really eat the cracker either. I kind of like swirled it around and then, put it in a tissue because it just, yeah. So anyway, after that, I got back to the house and I was telling his mom about what happened. She goes, "You're not a Catholic?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not a Catholic." She goes, "Well, if you're not a Catholic, you can't go to Mass." And I was like, "Well, why didn't somebody say anything? Nobody even asked me if I was Catholic or not." So, over the years, I've really taken a look at that whole blood of Christ and body of Christ, right? And I totally look at it as cannibalism and vampirism. And so I had a really good, friend of mine who was like a holy person, not a native holy person, but a different type of other holy person, a non-church holy person, like, like fall probably like more into like more of the guru category from like India. So one time we were talking about the whole thing. And I asked him a question. I said, you think it's worse to just be a cannibal, to do a human sacrifice and eat that person, or to be like a church and transfigure, which is like a witchcraft, spells, transfigure a presence of someone into a cracker or wine for people to eat and drink. I mean, it seems like to me you'd be cursed, right? I mean, because you are drinking blood. And you're like, oh, it's juice or wine. Well, it's the transfigurement. And I think it's all really, really bad. But I think the transfigurement and the fact that they can get a whole bunch of people in Christianity and Catholicism to drink blood and eat flesh in masses and droves. I mean, we're talking daily. Some churches do daily mass. Makes you no different than people who traffic children or eat humans or traffic in human body parts. There's no difference. You're a cannibal because you're eating someone's flesh and drinking someone's blood. And this is the other thing too, is like, who do you know? Once they transfigure it, do you really know who they've transfigured it into? I mean, who do you think that they've called forth in the back room to transfigure as a curse or spell into that body that you're cannibalizing in a cracker, and the blood that you're drinking, you don't know for sure because you weren't in the back room when the ceremony, the magical practices happened, right? And so it just always blows me away. It always just blows me away, like how stupid people are and how two-sided everything is. Well, yes, on one hand, it is transfigured blood, but then on the other hand, it's just juice. And sometimes I think because of the ceremonies that are behind things like communion, and they're so old. It's how they keep alive these multi-dimensional sinister beings and keeping them fed. Because once you're doing this, you are, even if you've done it once and you haven't gone back to a church, you you ate someone's flesh and you drink someone's blood. So whoever's at the hierarchy of that organization and in recent times, I've listened to a lot of Latin chanting from churches, like right out of the Pope's mouth, that talk about Lucifer. So you're probably drinking Lucifer blood and Lucifer eating the body of Lucifer, which is like a multi-dimensional being. And so I think, because they just kind of slip it into our culture, I think maybe that's why we're not in such an uproar about, because there's like this confoundedness. It's like, well, I go to church and I eat someone's body and I drink their blood, and those people, they're stealing children and sacrificing them on an altar and drinking their blood and eating their bodies. Sometimes I think that maybe it's that MK Ultra kind of stuff, that this stuff could be like MK Ultra programming and then serves a dark sacred purpose on top of that. So about 10 years ago, I was listening to this really amazing guy. He had grown up in the Jewish faith. Then he left. He went to like Nepal and Tibet, and he, learned about Buddhism. Then, he practiced that. Then he, went on and tried Sufism and all these different things. And then he eventually found his way back and became a rabbi, but was specializing more in the Kabbalah, or the Kabbalah, and the kind of the energy, the Kabbalah can be used as energy weapons. Yes, I just said energy weapon. And the communion is an energy weapon that's used to collect people's energy simultaneously. It's an energy weapon. So, one of the things he said, and a lot of the type of work that I do with people, coaching and counseling them, helping them with spiritual practice, helping them with their health, helping them to clear the past so it's not affecting them in the present, and getting their power back from those places so that they can extend their life. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes along with that. And so I've always told people that it's really important to do revocations, where you revoke the invitations, right? And sometimes you may have to go there to do the revoke. And this guy, brought it home, because at the time I was kind of starting to really study common law and other types of law. And one of the things he said was that when you leave a church, or you find out that a church is doing something, or like say communion, and you come to the realization that there's like a whole other thing that's going on than when you initially walked in, and you, under peer pressure, did communion, that he talked about how you need to revoke that as well. And he said that it's even better if you write a letter to that church, right? and mail it in the mail, stating to that church that you are now, relinquishing their power over communion that took place at such and such time when I was, 15 years old, or if it's a long duration, and that you're revoking their invitation to your mind, your emotions, your spirit, your flesh, and that, you just wanted to send them the letter to notify them of such matters. That way you're rectifying to them and rectifying to yourself in a written way, breaking those contracts or agreements that you were making that you didn't know that you were making. So sometimes it's beneficial to write these letters and also do processes of revocation. And I say I'm going to watch someone's house. The first thing that I do is I revoke anything consciously or unconsciously that was any kind of invite to physical, to mental, emotional, or spiritual, to multidimensional beings, to, extraterrestrials or ghosts or spirits. I revoke all those invitations while I'm there. And if, when they get back, it can all come back in, right? So I'm not trespassing, but if they invite me to come there and watch their house, then I do a major revocation for it because I don't want to be bothered by their stuff. That's not what I signed on to do. I signed on to watch their house, not deal with their stuff. They need to deal with their stuff. So if you have, if you don't really know how to handle some of these trespasses nets basically that you walked into and became enslaved and captured, whether it's energetically or physically, spiritually or mentally or emotionally, and that you collectively gave your energy to this, and it can constantly feed off of you, past this life experience. And if you come back here again, it can feed off you again. So you want to make sure that you revoke any kind of blood drinking and human flesh eating, period, end of story, just for your own longevity and for your own health. And you may need someone to help you that has practices in order to do it, or help you to figure out what the languaging might be, or help you to be clear about what has happened to you. And I totally do this work. I do seated shamanism sessions. So I do them with, I've done them with companies and CEOs. I do them with all kinds of different people. I've worked with MK Ultra, people that have had all kinds of demonic stuff, people that have gotten themselves stuck in ritual type stuff. And the thing is like, the whole, vampire thing and, eating of flesh is it's just a really bad place to go. So, and I'm sorry about this, but any church or any organized religion that transfigures something's blood into a juice or a wine so that you can drink it is totally effed up. Okay? So beyond effed up. Okay? People that want to give you a cracker that symbolizes that's been transfigured of someone's, because we don't know. You could use the word Jesus, but you don't know for sure. You have no idea how that stuff has been prayed over, which kind of rituals have been done to it, And it is not a simple thing, right? It's a very dangerous thing, right? Because it collects your energy. Your energy, once you do that, is plugged in. And you need to get yourself unplugged, because sometimes that energy can just suck you dry and you can age rapidly. Or you can go into like a healing crisis, right? A long-term healing crisis. So anyway, kind of wanted to talk about that for quite a while. Something that I've thought about since 19. I'm 50 now. So, like, 30 years I've thought about it. I can't even believe I thought about it for 30 years. And it's a bad thing. So, you want to make sure to keep your blood in your body, and you don't want to make sure that you're not drinking anyone's blood. No matter, or anything's blood. And no matter how that's sold to you. Because it's dangerous. It's super, super dangerous. Energetically. And to your life. Okay, so that's it. Virgil Lynn Dolgoff, Conscious of Economics and Urban Farm Project. And have a great night.